Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is ICT IGCSE theory, and today I'm going to revise chapter 4, which is computer networks. And as a definition, if you look at computer networks, this is the definition. Computer network is connecting two or more computers or devices together, and normally we connect them to exchange information, or as we call it, to exchange data. Now, to do so, we can connect devices together either by using a cable or wirelessly, yes, or using a wireless connection. As you can see here, this computer is connected to this switch using a cable, and to do so you need what we call a network interface card, where you can plug in the cable in the computer and plug in the cable in one of the switches port, as you can see here in the picture. Now, by this we call this let's say a wired or cabled communication. Other devices such as mobile phone, tablets and laptops can connect to your network, to the same network, but using wireless signals. For example, the laptops can get the information from the access points, where the access points get the signal to the network using a cable. Hence, your devices will be connected to the network wirelessly because of their portability features. To do so, you need a wireless network interface card. It comes already with these kind of devices. Hence, to connect devices together, you can connect them using either a cable or either wireless, and in both cases you need each and every device that will be connected to the network to have a network interface card. Okay? Now, what are the advantages of connecting computers together or using networks? Now, you have two main advantages. One of them is sharing information. By information, I mean transferring files between computers. Yes, the second advantage is sharing resources. And by resources, I mean sharing printers. For example, you might have a big lab and only one printers where all the computers can share that device or that printer, hence less cost. You buy only one printer and all the devices can share it. Or you might have an internet router or modem, and many devices at home can be sharing the internet connection, even though the disadvantage is you might get a slow connection since others are sharing the internet with you. However, you buy only one router and all devices can share it. Hence, the advantage is sharing information or transferring information between computers, and sharing devices. You buy one device only, such as a scanner or a printer or internet, and many computers can be sharing that device, so less cost of setting the network. Disadvantages of using networks. First disadvantage, since you are transferring information between files, you might get a virus. And viruses are just a small application that install themselves and copy themselves by themselves to your computer and operating system to corrupt your data, delete your data, or make your operating system slower, generally speaking. And since you are connected with other computer, hackers might hack into your computer if it's not protected 100%. And hackers hack into different computers to steal data, to steal credit cards, to steal information, and to play with your private informations. So disadvantages can be viruses, hackers, and since you are sharing resources such as printers and internet, you get a slower services or a slow connection. Yes, if you are sharing the printer, then you have to wait for the others to print until you get to print. If you are sharing internet, then the speed will be divided between how many devices are sharing the internet. Now, let's see how we can connect computers together. If you have more than one computer that you would like them to connect together, such as in a school lab, you need a device that we call a controller. And this device will allow all computers to connect to it, and its main function is, let's say, managing the transfer of information between them. This device can be a switch or can be a hub. If it's a hub, the hub is a very cheap device. It has one disadvantage, which is if one of the computer, let's say computer 1, would like to send to computer 3, yes, if these are 4 computers, if computer 1 would like to send to the computer 3, the signal should go through the hub, since all of them are connected with this hub. Now the hub will just broadcast the signals to all other connected devices. It will not only send it to the destined computer, it will send it to all of them. That's why this device, we call it a dumb device, because it sends packages to all. It does not recognize the destination computers. Yes, so it has very poor security, since if it has a very good security, it should only send it to the destined device, since all the devices will hear the transfer of the information and will receive a copy of whatever computer 1 sent. That means the security is poor. On the other hand, if you buy a switch or if you use a switch in your network, if computer 1 would like to send to computer 2, the information will be sent only to computer 2. Computer 3 and computer 4 will not even know that a communication has happened between computer 1 and computer 2, and that's why this one is considered more secure. So the switch is more secure, and since it's more secure and more intelligent than the hub, it is more expensive. Yes, and this is where we use it in schools, in offices, in big buildings, where we would like the information to be sent only to the destined computers, and the other computers should not even receive those informations. Yes. The hub, since it's sent to all, we can make it for a small home network where you have only 2 or 3 computers connected together. It doesn't matter if all of them receive the informations, because you don't need actually a very high security at home. However, in offices and in schools, you need a high security. That's why you need to invest in these kind of smart devices such as switches to make sure that the information is always efficient and secure. Okay. Now, how the switch understand and knows to what device the information should go? If we look at this picture, you will find that these are interfaces, cables connected to the switch. We have 1 device, the second, and 3 devices. We might connect the 4th one here, a 5th one here, and you get the point. All devices can be connected to the switch. Now, once you connect the computer to the switch ports, or these ports, as I can see, the switch will recognize an address that each and every computer has, and this address we call it the MAC address. Each and every computer connected to the network must have this MAC address. We call it a physical address, a hard-coded address, and it's a unique address. Each and every computer will have a unique address that will never be duplicated anywhere else around the world. That's why MAC addresses, we call them hard-coded addresses. And by hard-coded, that means they come with the device, they can never be changed, they are never duplicated. Yes? So once these devices are connected to the switch will read that device number 1 has the MAC address 1AA, device number 2 has the MAC address BB, and this information will be saved in the switching table. So inside the switch, inside the RAM, which is the random access memory of the switch, you will find that each and every device connected, the switch will link the MAC address of that respective device immediately. So if computer 1 would like to send to computer 2, the switch will read the MAC address of computer 1, which is, the package will look like this: I am computer AA, which is computer 1, going to computer BB, which is the MAC address of computer 2. My other address is 1, the destined computer address is 2, and the data that I'm sending is hi there. This is how the package should look like. Yes? So what will happen? The switch will read this information, the destined MAC address and the receiver MAC address, and based on the receiver MAC address, the switch will know that this information should go through port 2. Since this information is going for the MAC address BB, and BB is computer 2 and is connected to port 2 here. Yes, so the switch will send it directly. Okay, the same if computer 2 would like to send back to computer 1, the switch will compare the MAC address of the destination, which is AA, with the switching table, and know that the information should go through port 1, hence the information will go this way. Computer 3 and computer 4 will never even know that the information has been sent. Okay, So if in the exam they ask you how the switch information between computer, you would say that the switch information between computer using the MAC address that's stored in the switching table. Yes, based on the MAC address stored in the switching table. Okay. Now, once we connect computers together, this is what we call it a LAN. Yes, these computers, once we are connected together, this we call it a local area network. So when we connect computers in the same geographical location, for example a school or a company, all the computers will be connected using switches, then we are forming what we call a local area network. Yes, why we call it a local area network? Since all the devices, you own them, all the devices connected to the network are in the same geographical location or relate to the same company or institution. So to design and to set up a local area network, what we need? Computers and switches. Okay. Now other ones is that sometimes you need to go to what we call it the wide area network or other networks, or in the book they might call it you need to connect to the internet. To connect to the internet, if you are company A here, you have a couple of computers connected to the switch. Now this is what we call a LAN. This is your local area network. You are connecting your devices with the switch. To connect to the other network, you need an extra device. We call it the router. And the router is a device that allows you to connect to other networks or to connect to the internet. So you connect your switch with your router would be connecting to other routers, and other routers would be connecting to other LANs. Yes, other company LANs or LANs in other geographical location. So you can actually jump from network A to network B or other networks on the internet. Yes. So now we have introduced another device. This device we call it a router, and the main task of the router is to connect you with other networks. Now again the question might arise, how the routers will know to what network you are going. As you can see here, next to each and every router you have numbers 10.1.1.0, and all devices inside this network start from the same numbers 10.1.1, but this is 10.1.1.34. This device is 10.1.1 but 37. This device might end with 36, 35. You get the point. So all these devices are in the network 10.1.1. Other network will have a different IP address. So this one we call it the IP address. For example, this network is 10.1.2.0. So this device might be 10.1.2.1, and this one will be 10.1.2.2 until you get to .2.76 or .2.200. You get the point. Now the router will have a routing table, and inside the routing table it will put the network and interface. So if you are going through or you are going to the network 10.1.2.0, it will know that it should go through this cable or this interface here. If you are going to the network 10.1.3.0, you will go through this interface here. If you are going to the network, let's say 10.0.4, if you say this network is .4, you will go through 10.0.3 first, and then you can reach 10.4. So the router will have what we call it a routing table, and the router table contains IP addresses of other networks and how to reach those networks. Yes. Here it says data packet contained in the following information. What is contained in the router? The header, yes, which identify the package. The sender and receiver IP addresses. For example, I am computer 10.1.1.37 and would like to go to this computer, which is 10.1.1.2.76. So the sender and receiver IP addresses, the number of data package and the information inside them. For example, I have one data package and inside it I would say hi there to this computer. This information will go through the switch, go through the router. The router will read the destination IP address to know how it can reach this device, and it would know that it should go through this cable and then reach this switch, and this switch will deliver the information to this device. Are we good? So everything connected to the internet or connected to the routers must use what we call it an IP address, and this is what we call it a logical address. A logical address. Because if today you are connected to this network, you might move on, take your computer or laptop, and tomorrow you might be connected to the other network. For example, you might be in this building connecting to this network here. Your IP address will change since you are moving from 10.1.2 into 172.16.104.1, let's say. You get the point. So why we call it a logical IP address? Since every time you move from a network to another network, the number or these phone numbers that you are getting will be different. Okay? So at the conclusion, to route between different networks, you need a device with the name router. This device uses IP addresses to find the destination networks, and IP addresses are logical addresses that changes whenever you change your location or the network, and they contains out of 4 decimal numbers separated by the dot, let's say 10.1.2.40. This we call a 4 decimal number. If we convert it into digital, you will find that it's a 32-bit address. Okay? If we convert them from decimal into digital, it will become a 32-bit address or IP address. So now we have discussed 2 important devices. We have discussed that to connect in a local area network, you need to connect your computers using either a switch or a hub, and the switch will transfer information between computer using the switching table or the MAC address of each and every computer. Yes? And the same if you would like to connect your network to another network, you need an extra device to reach the WAN or the internet, and this device we call it the router, and the router will use the IP addresses or the logical addresses, which these are 4 numbers separated by dots to reach the destined networks. So far good? Next now. Other devices that you might find in network, previously we used to use this device, we call it a modem, and since previously we needed to connect to the internet by using the landline telephone lines, yes, so you connect your computers to the telephone line, the normal landline telephone line, and then the telephone line will route you to other networks through their cables. The telephone line is analog and the computer is digital. So whenever you connect your computer to the telephone line, you need actually to translate between the computer language, which is digital, and the telephone language, which is analog. And this is the modem, this is a device that converts between analog and digital. Nowadays we don't need that since we are connected to digital computers directly. So what we need, a computer with a network interface card, which is how it looks like, and we can directly connect the cable to the switch, not the hub, since the switch, as we said, is more intelligent than the hub. If we are using hubs in the networks, then we use what we call it a bridge to minimize the number of traffic circulating the network. Since the hub will send to all computer broadcast, to restrict the broadcast of this area, to go to this area of the network, we will use a device called bridge. This bridge will know all MAC addresses in this area and all MAC addresses in this area. So if a broadcast is trying to go to the other area and the bridge have seen that the MAC address of the needed device is not in this area, it will block it from going there. By this, we minimize the unnecessary broadcasting of information between big local networks. Since nowadays we are not using hubs, we are using switches, hence the bridge is not needed anymore. You will not find it in the market anymore. However, you just need to know how to define it, and the bridge as a definition is a device that segments big networks into smaller networks, and it works with hubs. Yes, segment big network into smaller networks, and it works only with hubs. And nowadays we don't need it, since we are using a switch, and switch does not broadcast. A switch just send to the destined device directly, so no unnecessary traffic will be going through the networks. Next, we mentioned that we can connect computers together using a cable or wirelessly. If we connect them together using wirelessly, we would use a technology that we call nowadays a Wi-Fi technology to allow computers to exchange or to connect to the internet together. Now, before we go into the advantages of connecting them wirelessly or cable, let's compare the Wi-Fi with another wireless technology. We call it the Bluetooth technology. And the difference is that if you look at the Bluetooth technology, the Bluetooth is intended to connect personal devices together. That's why we call it a personal area network. Whenever you get a Bluetooth device such as a headset or a wireless, let's say earpods or something like that, to connect it with your phone, yes, you can connect a gamepad to your phone, you can connect a microphone to your phone, you can connect a printer to your phone using these kind of wireless Bluetooth devices. So it's something personal, and the distance or the coverage area is 15 to 20 square meters only. So it's intended for devices next to you, such as headsets, such as wireless mouse, wireless keyboard. You get the point. And since you are connecting these devices to operate them or to send small amount of data, the transfer speed of the Bluetooth is normally in kilobytes. Yes? So it's not intended, for example, to transfer movies or to transfer big chunk of files. Yes? On the other hand, if you look at the Wi-Fi, the distance used in the Wi-Fi is almost 100 meters square, unlike the Bluetooth 20 meters square only. So the Wi-Fi can cover virtually a bigger distance. Devices around 100 meters square can still get the connection of this Wi-Fi. And since Wi-Fi is intended for the internet, then you will find that the speed of the Wi-Fi is faster than the speed of the Bluetooth. It can go up to 100 megabit per second, unlike the Bluetooth where it goes in kilobit per seconds. That's the difference between the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. So bigger coverage area, higher speed, and intended for many devices to connect at the same time. Unlike in Bluetooth, you will find that only peer-to-peer communication can happen. One device can connect to the earpods, one device can connect to the wireless or Bluetooth mouse in this case. Yes? So these are different technologies for different purposes. Wi-Fi is intended for internet, for high speed, for bigger coverage area. Bluetooth is intended for personal, near to you devices, for smaller speed and for a smaller covering area. Next, we have covered this area where we said that the network can be divided into a local area network or a wireless area network, and we mentioned that in local area network you need a switch to connect devices or computers together, and it covers only a very small area, one building or one company. WAN or wide area network or the internet is now you are using a router to connect to other networks, and that's why we call it a wide area networks. Hence you are actually joining several LANs together in different geographical areas. That's why you need to get a router, and normally you get the router, you buy the router and you lease it from your internet service provider such as Zain, Sudani or MTN. They give you the router and they allow you to communicate with the outer world. Next, we mentioned that you can connect a LAN having a switch, connected devices with the switch. That means you are actually constructing or designing a LAN. If the devices are connected through access point or Wi-Fi access point to the switch, that means now these are wireless devices that they don't use cables to connect to the network. In this case, the network will be called wireless local area network. So the local area network can be a wired local area networks, just like in desktop computers, but if you would like to connect your laptop or mobile phone, then you will buy an access point or a Wi-Fi access point and allow these to connect to the other networks or the rest of the LAN. In this case, we call it a wireless local area network. Next, internet versus intranet, and we all know the term internet. Internet means the global. Internet means public. Anyone can access YouTube, anyone can access Facebook, anyone can access a website on the internet. That's why the internet is considered public, it's considered global, you can access it from anywhere, and it's not reliable. Meaning the information that you might find in a certain website might be true or false. You might get viruses. Sometimes you might find it very hard to find the information you need in the internet, since you have hundreds of thousands of millions of websites there on the internet. That's why companies, whenever they store their information and they would like their staff to exchange information and reuse it, they store it internally, and by that we mean they have what we call an intranet. Meaning, if this is the company, you will find that all computers in the company can access these big computers, or what we call them server, to get the information that they need. For example, if you are at the school to get an information about a specific students, the information will be put in a server or a very powerful computer. We will call it student data. So if any of the teachers or the admins would like to access a specific student's informations, grading informations or address informations or any kind of activity information, the signals will go through the switch to this computer inside the company, and by this information are being transferred and shared and stored inside the company itself, not on the internet. This is what we call intranet. Your information will be on the opposite of internet, not public, private network, since only staff inside the school, for example, will be able to access the data. Secure, since you will have to be inside the school to be able to access these servers. And reliable, since the information put in the school servers are 100% correct about each and every let's say students in our scenario. Yes? So if we compare again internet with intranet, internet is public, internet is global, anyone can access it from anywhere, and it's not secure and it's not reliable. Intranet, on the other hand, everything is local, since that's why we call it a private network. A very secure network, you have to be inside the network to access. A very reliable, you know what information you have put inside your local server. Accessing the internet, and this is repeated, we covered this in chapter 1. You can access the internet using either laptops or desktop or tablets or smartphones, and it provides you with some advantages and disadvantages, such as if you are using a desktop, you will have a bigger screen, a separate mouse and keyboard, and a better internet connection since you are using a cable. However, you will not be able to move it around. It's not portable. You need a power supply at all the time. Laptops, on the other hand, are very portable. Laptops, you can move them around. However, they get smaller screen and awkward keyboard and mouse position. Tablets and smartphone are even more portable than the laptop, and they can even access the network using 3G and 4G. You can have a SIM card inside them. So sometimes we prefer them whenever we are on the go. However, they have smaller screen, and sometimes they have only soft keyboard. They don't have a hard keyboard or a separate hard-coded keyboards. Okay. Security issues inside your network, and we mentioned when we started that networks has advantages and disadvantages, and we mentioned that the disadvantages is the viruses, the hackers, and this kind of security that might arise to connecting computers together. If we look at the security, hackers, and we mentioned that to define the hacker are just some people that are trying to hack or access your computer or your account without your permission. Why they do so? To steal, corrupt your data. Viruses are tiny programs that will install themselves by itself in your computer to slow down the computer, to corrupt your data, to alter or delete your data. Spyware are even more dangerous than viruses, because spyware are programs that install themselves in your computers to spy on you. And by spy on you, meaning everything that you press in your keyboard will be saved inside your computers, and once you are online will be transferred to the hacker email address. So if you are typing account name and password, the hacker will get them in the email, and then those accounts will be hacked. Phishing and farming, and we will go through these in later chapter. Yes, by phishing is that sometimes you get these kind of emails from unknown people that they are advertising something, or they are trying to trick you into giving them your account information or even money. So you get emails like, you want a prize, you want $1 million, please register here to claim your prize, so we transfer the money for you. You get happy, you believe them, they ask you to send your information, you send them your information. Sometimes they might ask you to pay the taxes before they deliver the money. Please pay us $10,000 as the taxes before we pay you the money. You believe them, you send the 10,000 and you get nothing. So these we call them phishing for you, trying to scam you to make it simpler. Farming, on the other hand, is, let's say you are trying to access your Facebook account and you type Facebook, but instead of going to Facebook, your browser, due to a code installed in your computer, will redirect you to another website, looks like Facebook in everything but the URL. As you can see here, there is no E in Facebook. It will send you to Factbook. Everything will look like Facebook. You will think that you now access your Facebook. You will put your username and password, and they will be grabbed by the hackers. So farming is having an identical but fake websites that will redirect you and scam you through allowing you to go into those websites, believing that they are the genuine original websites, and insert in your username and passwords, and they grab them and they steal your account. Okay? So this is the difference between phishing and farming. Another question is very arguable questions is, should the internet be policed? Should we control the internet? Should we prevent hackers and let's say dangerous websites from existing? Some people might say yes. Some people might say no. The people that say yes, to minimize the hacker, to minimize the scam, the phishers, and the farming that happens on the internet, to minimize dangerous content to be on the internet. The people that say no, they say, how can we do that? There are millions of websites. Who will pay for the people who will guard the website and check each and every website? Who decide what's legal and what's illegal? Freedom of speech here. Yes, companies and institutions might take an advantage to prevent, let's say, their opponents from opening websites. So freedom of speech will be in danger. And it will be very expensive. You need thousands of staff to check millions of websites and to decide whether their contents are genuine or scam. You get the point. So you might be with policing the internet or against policing the internet. How to make your network more secure? Normally, to make any device more secure, we use a name, a username, and a password. So it's a method of authentication, making sure that you are who you pretend you are. We have even better ways of doing so. Other than using username and password, we can use biometrics. Yes? And we'll discuss the differences. So the password, the username and password has some kind of disadvantages. People might guess your password. People might see your password, might steal your password. You get the point. To make it less, let's say, vulnerable, you can, let's say, make a very strong password, having multiple characters of letters, capital letters and small letters and symbols. And you regularly change your password and never use the same password in all your accounts. Yes? Better ways of authentication nowadays it's preferred is using biometrics, which is a feature in the human being that makes it very unique. For example, instead of accessing your account using a password, you can access it using your fingerprint. Nowadays you can access phones using retina scan or iris scan or face scan. Voice recognition as well can be done, even though it's not popular and voices changes all the time. You might get sick and your voice changes. So biometrics are even unique data, and only the person with the biometric feature can access the network. No one can copy or replicate your biometric data. That's why if you look now, all the new devices, all the advanced expensive devices, they never use a username password. They use the biometrics such as fingerprint or retina scan to authenticate you. Other method we have covered in chapter 2, you can have magnetic swipe cards, and we mentioned these are using ATM doors or hotel doors, and it's better. They can be updated, they can be blocked if you lose them, and they are better than using a password or a key. Transaction authentication number, this is used by a bank. Whenever you are trying to do any kind of online transaction, the bank, to proceed and finish the transaction, will send you a code in a specific device. You insert this code in the website, and the bank knows that you are the person who you pretend you are to transfer and finish the transaction for you, because you are the only person who has this device given by the bank. Now, to simulate this device is happening in other account, what we call it two-factor authentication. If you are trying, let's say, to access your email from a public computer, the server might get suspicious. Even though you inserted your username and password correctly, the server will tell you that it will send the code to your telephone number. Insert this code to continue accessing your account for your own security. So now how many authentication they are using? 2. The username and password, even though they are correct, they will ask you that they will send you a code in your phone. Take the code, insert it in the website, and then you can log into your account. And they do it whenever they feel that a new or public computer has been used for the first time to access this specific account. And this is what we call a two-factor authentication. Other securities that happen sometimes comes with the operating system. We call it the firewall, and the firewall normally is just a software that monitors everything that coming inside your network, or the packages coming inside your network and the packages going outside. So it's act like a firewall between them. You can actually have a blacklisted website. Any blacklist website tried, or a hacker website tried to access your network, this firewall will block it based on the address. And if you are trying to reach any website that the firewall think it's a dangerous website, they might warn you or block you from accessing those websites. So it's a way of preventing unauthorized computer using the internet accessing any kind of a dangerous computer. So minimizes the threats by accepting or rejecting some kind of addresses, or even downloaded program by giving you warnings such as this. So firewall is very let's say important piece of software, and it normally comes with the operating system. Encryption, on the other hand, is just making sure that your information is secure, meaning the encryption is just converting the information into a form that is meaningless to anyone except the holder of a key. That means to create the encryption, you must have what we call it a key. So if you are a person, you must have two keys. The first key, we call it the public key, and the other key, we call it the private key. Yes? So now if you would like anyone to send you an information, you will send them the public key. They will encrypt the message using the public key and send it back to you, and no one can decrypt it back except you, because you are the only one who have the decrypting key or the private key. And the same goes for anyone else. Okay, so the idea of encryption is having a public key and a private key. You always send your public key to the others so that they encrypt the messages, and who can decrypt it? Only you, since only you is the person who holds the private key. That's why one of the tips that they give it to you is never share your private key. So encrypting meaning scrambling of data. If the data is intercepted by a hacker, let's say, even if the hacker catches the data or manage to go inside your computer or inside your account, the hacker will still not be able to understand or read the data, because the hacker will not have the decrypting key. So the person with the key will be able to decrypt it at all the time. Disadvantage of encryption is that even though the data is encrypted, even though the hacker will not be able to understand the data, they can still access the data and delete it from your system. And criminals can use encryption to encrypt their criminal material so that the police or the public could not know what they are exchanging or what kind of information they are exchanging between them. Next, the proxy server, and this is a very important piece of computer or a server, since it's very powerful, that will be placed between you and the internet. So all the users will be here, and for all the users to access the internet, the request must go through this proxy server. This proxy server has many roles. One of them is to monitor everything that's happening into your network. So any request that goes to the internet or any reply or response that come back to your network will be recorded by the proxy server. So at the end of the day, you can view the log of all the computers and all the activities that happens throughout that day. Since you can monitor and you can read incoming and outgoing packages, the proxy server can work as a block or a blocker server. For example, you can set some kind of rules in the proxy server to tell the proxy server never allow any request or reply from YouTube/Facebook during the hours 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Hence, any requests for YouTube or Facebook or any responses from YouTube and Facebook coming from the internet will not be processed by the blocker server. They will be blocked during this specific time. And this one and this kind of features is always done in companies to make sure that the staff are spending the internet time wisely and doing only job related activity. They're not accessing social medias or other waste of time sites during the job. So the proxy server can work as a monitor. The proxy server can work as a blocker. Server passes some requests to the internet must pass, as I said, through the proxy server. Hence, anything that passes through the proxy server can be cached or stored. So the proxy server, when it finds that many requests are coming, let's say, to Facebook homepage, the proxy server will keep a copy of Facebook. So if any of the users request Facebook, the proxy server will deliver its own copy without requesting a new copy from Facebook server. By that, if you have had hundreds of requests that goes to the same website, the proxy will send only one request. When it comes back, it will duplicate that request and respond to many computers. By that, only needed packets or requests will go through the proxy server to the internet, making the internet experience for the user even faster and faster. So it can work as a buffer or a cache. At the end of the day, it can work as a web server, meaning to access the internet, you must go through the proxy. To conclude, the proxy server can work as a blocker. A proxy server can work as a monitor. A proxy server can store or cache popular websites. The proxy server can work as a web server or will be the computer that is responsible for connecting you to the internet. Security of network regarding data protection. For example, data protection can be applied for paper or electronic forms of data. Yes? Now, since companies such as Facebook, Amazon, eBay, they keep sensitive data about their customers, including their addresses, their phone numbers, their email addresses, their payment details. This data should be protected and not spread or copied or transferred to any other company or entity. This is what we call the Principle of Data Protection Act. Data must be fairly processed by them. Data must be processed on the stated purpose only, should not be processed to a different reason than the reason that they give you when you register to the website. Only relevant information should be asked from you. They shouldn't ask you about excessive information. Yes, only the needed information to, let's say, open the accounts they should ask you. Data must be very accurate. Data must not be kept longer than necessary. If you deactivate your account in a specific website or a specific company, they should delete your data from their database. Otherwise, someone might get the data and expose it or use it. Yes? And it must always be kept secure, specifically the payment, the home addresses, the telephone number. These kind of information should not be spread or given to any other party. Data must not be transferred to another country or to anywhere unless it's very adequately protected or they actually ask your permission to do so. Why this is happening? To protect you as a customer from misusing the information that you deliver to such companies and such social media websites. Next, how we communicate. Now, the type of communications has been evolving, and the old way of communication where we use what we call a physical fax, where it's a machine that you can scan papers and print paper at the same time. This machine is always connected to a telephone line. So if you'd like to photocopy any paper or transfer it to any remote location, you'll put the paper on the machine. You'll dial the telephone number of the receiver. The paper will be photocopied and sent through the wires to the receiver. The receiver on the other part will have a similar machine, and the fax will be, or a copy of your paper will be printed through their machines. Yes? The disadvantage of this is that this fax will be printed out and anyone inside that office or have access to the machine can see the fax. Yes? And the fax will not be delivered if you are out of paper or your machine is out of ink. Yes? And there is no notification of the fax. Other disadvantages is that the fax is not portable. Since the fax is linked with your telephone line, meaning if you get a fax, you must be in the place where the telephone line is connected. So if you have a fax at home and you get the message or you get a new fax, you must go back to your home to get the fax. The same if the fax is at your office and someone told you that they send you paper through the fax, you must go back to the office to receive it. So no portability, you'll not be able to access it from anywhere since it's linked with the telephone line. They try to improve this problem of telephone line by saying, let's make it what we call an electronic faxing. Instead of connecting the machine with the telephone line, they connect it with the internet connection. Yes, and no need to buy a fax machine or ink or paper. Everything will be sent to your emails. Yes, and then you just open your email directly, and it can also be sent to the fax machine as another copy. By this, no additional cost will be done, and you have the portability of accessing this fax from anywhere. And this is what we call nowadays an email communication. You can actually now send papers and send other attachments such as audio and video, and many people might get the same email, so it's even faster, and you can send as a block. Yes, and you get it instantly and you have it secure. Not anyone can access or see the emails. Disadvantages: emails might include, as I say, viruses. You might get email from unknown people to spam you or to scam you, just like trying to phish you to obtain data or to ask you for your account or to steal money from you. Hence, the communication started from the fax, which connected the telephone line, then connecting the fax to the internet for portability, and then removing the fax machine itself and calling it an email communication, where you just get it as a soft copy inside your email account. If you'd like to print it, use a printer. If you'd like to keep it as a soft copy, you keep it as a soft copy. Same happen in different ways of communications, which we call it a video communications or a video conferencing communications, where people can see each other, talk with each other even though they are far, far away from each other, and you need a video and sound, and you need an internet connection. So the hardware you need to set up a video conference is a web camera, a screen, a speaker, and a microphone. Applications such as Skype and Zoom and this kind of online classes applications are very popular nowadays, and they all use video conferencings, or people can communicate with each other, see each other. So the advantage is no need to travel. You can access the specific video conferencing from anywhere, so no need to travel. Hence the cost will be less, even though you need to have some kind of very good internet connections, and you need to have these devices to be able to set up the video conference itself. Yes. So the other disadvantage that might relates to this video conferences, you might have some kind of technical problems with the internet or with the device that you use to connect to the others. The setup cost itself, as I said, you need to purchase it. The lack of personal contact, since everything will be through these cameras, no physical contacts, no social contacts between you and the other people, and you have different time zone. For example, if you'd like to set up the meeting at 2 p.m., if it's 2 p.m. here, it might be 2 a.m. somewhere else, specifically if the people that will be joining this video conferencing are in different time zones. Other method we call it is audio conferencing, and it's just like video conferencing. The only difference is that you are using a telephone line, and you are not using the landline telephone line. You can use the telephone line over the internet, which we call it voice over internet protocol, and you need only a microphone and a speaker. And people, to access the conversations, they need a unique PIN, so that only a couple of people or predefined people can access this audio call. Yes. Web conferencing is another type of communication as well, and in web conferencing only one person will need a camera and speakers, and only one person can talk through the camera and the speakers. The rest of the audience will only see, and they can comment, like or dislike the video. This is, nowadays we call it a live video. Yes, whenever you find someone having a live, let's say, video on Facebook or on YouTube, you know that this is what we call a web conference, where you can access it using your web browser, and you can never interrupt the person. You can only comment, like or dislike. So what you need as an audience, a keyboard for instant messages. And this is the end of chapter 4.